what's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. We're in Historic here for a fun little Rakdos list. So one of my favorite cards on the whole of Arena is Sarkhan's Unsealing. It's a 4-mana enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to any target. However, if the creature has power 7 or greater, it deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and Planeswalker they control. So super, super powerful. Obviously, it's a 4-mana do-nothing enchantment, but if you can untap even one time with this, you can get a ton of value. And the fact that it's a cast trigger works really well against like control decks, so even if they counter your creature spell, we used to get the cast trigger, you get to blow up their Planeswalkers, any creatures they might have, things like that. And obviously there's tons of aggro right now in Historic, and so if you can resolve this on 4 and then live long enough to, of course, untap on turn 5 with this, then you're going to do some serious damage to your opponent's board state. We have plenty of good creatures in here. Unfortunately, Rakdos is certainly fun. Gruul or even Jund might be better because you get those options to ramp and get your Unsealing down like on turn 3, and then on turn 4, then you can potentially wipe the board and things like that. So there's certainly a case to be made for that. But this is a fun little Rakdos build that I've been brewing and have a ton of fun with it. Alright, so all 4 copies of Unsealing. How are we going to get there? We do need some, obviously, a little bit of removal. You're not always going to find this card and things like that. And there's just creatures you need to deal with in the early stages of the game. You just have to get rid of sometimes. So we got 2 cast downs, 2 eliminates. Just kind of need a variety of answers, and these are the 2 I'm going with. Obviously, what's the Heartless Axe really deserves consideration as well, but I slightly favor these 2 right now. But you can certainly take a look at that, maybe even walk the plank. But double black could be a little tricky since you are in 2 colors. But yeah, don't really see too much Merfolk anymore, and plus these are instant speed, so I think overall cast down and eliminate are probably the best way to go, at least in the main. We also have 4 Kitesail Freebooters. Allows us to answer any ways for them to might answer our Unsealing, get rid of Mortifies or any enchantment removal, things like that. And just kind of look at what our opponent's hand is so we can kind of play around it. That's certainly a big advantage. And also being able to get potentially a counterspell out of our opponent's hand so we can resolve an Unsealing. So lots of nice little things you can do with the Freebooter. It's a really, really good card. And so in the early turns, we're just looking for kind of some value plays. And so the Freebooter is there, and then once we get the Unsealing down, then we're in business, and we can kind of start playing our big boys and actually getting all that sweet value. But at the same time, we kept our curve fairly low here. We top out at 5, which you're about to see here. Because we want to make it nice and efficient and not get too greedy with 6 and 7 mana plays and things like that. So the other value creature here is the Viashino Pyromancer. We're trying to be aggressive here, and the Unsealing, of course, deals 4 damage. Well, this is a way for us to kind of chip away for some early damage, doing 2 damage just upon enter the battlefield. And the fact that this is a creature or a player or a planeswalker is pretty fantastic. And then leaves behind a 2/1 creature that can kind of soak up some damage, maybe trade with some creatures in combat. It's pretty sweet. Now, Sarkhan's Unsealing is can run 4 of, so Grim Tutor is going to let us make sure that we find our Unsealing as consistently as possible. And the fact that it's a 3-mana spell means that we can cast these on curve, which I love about this card. So I'm so happy to include Grim Tutor in here. So that way you can guarantee you have your Unsealing on 4, and then on turn 5 you can kind of play whatever creature you want to wipe the board, or use it as single target removal, whatever the case may be. Or you have your Unsealing in hand, but maybe you're missing that 7-power creature, and Grim Tutor can tutor that up for you. So you can play your Tutor on 3, the Unsealing you already had in hand, you play it on 4, and then you can drop down your creature on 5, and then control the board state from there. Obviously, Rotting Regisaur is a fantastic option. 7/6 for 3 mana is amazing. The 7 power, of course, is the key here. So this is fine to do after you drop the Unsealing, because oftentimes you'll do this and something else. But we do go all the way up to 5 mana with some of our spells, so we don't always want to cast this on 3 and then potentially have to discard something. Because we do need to get the 5 lands. We do need to have those creatures to play after the Unsealing potentially, and things like that. So I think 3 copies is better than running all 4, because you don't want to cast this on 3, especially if you have an Unsealing in hand. You want to get that 7-power cast trigger value. Then obviously you're going to want to get your Unsealing down first, and then go to Regisaur or whatever other creatures you might have in hand. So I feel like 3 is a pretty reasonable number here instead of 4. Bonecrusher Giant, it's a 2 damage as a form of removal. Being able to do 2 damage to any target is great. Again, you can hit Planeswalkers with it. It goes well with Unsealing, because then you can deal the 2 damage on turn 4 you got your Unsealing. Turn 5 you can stomp something and play the Bonecrusher Giant as a 4-power creature to get additional value. Maybe there's an Uro, and so the stomp can come down and deal 4 damage. Then you get the cast trigger from the Bonecrusher Giant and deal additional 4 damage to it. So that's a pretty neat little thing you can do with it. And yeah, just Bonecrusher Giant is a good card all around. Inferno Hellion definitely is an automatic inclusion for me. Number of copies you want to play with really depends on what exactly you're trying to do. We're going all 4 here, just trying to be really efficient and aggressive, and we want to close out the game as quickly as possible with this list. We don't want to be dinking around and showing off and playing, Carnage Tyrants or whatever big flashy spells. We want cheap spells that have the power to do things. This is a 7-powered. It has trample. It doesn't have haste or anything like that. It's kind of the only thing that really holds it back. It does shuffle back into our library if it attacks or blocks. With a little bit of downside, and of course it only has the 3 toughness. But I mean, if you're wiping the board here with 7 power and wipes your opponent's board, then you're not really too worried about that, especially when you have additional creatures that can kind of follow up and clear the path. And then the shuffles back in. So I think with Unsealing, that's actually a little bit of upside because it goes back into your library and increases your chance of potential, and then you can potentially draw it again and get additional cast triggers. So that's also certainly reasonable if the game does kind of drag out a little bit as well. All right, we've got a couple copies here of Clackbridge Troll, 8/8, Trample, and Haste. So it's 5 mana for 8-powered creature. It's pretty sweet. It's got Haste as well and the Trample. You do give your opponent 3 0/1 Goat tokens, but that's not really doing too much with your Trample creatures. We already just went over the Hellion, of course. But then if they choose not to let you attack with it, they can sack one of their creatures, maybe a Goat or whatever, and then you tap the Troll, you gain 3 life, and you draw a card. And we're happy with either one of those options, because the following turn, we're probably going to be able to play something else to wipe all those Goat tokens and whatever creatures they may have off the board, and then they don't even have the option to sack a creature to prevent you from attacking with your Clackbridge Troll. So nice little bit of synergy there. And finally, our top end here, we got 2 copies of Lightning Shrieker and 2 Terror of the Peaks. So I only have 2 Terror of the Peaks. Otherwise, you could definitely consider 3 or even 4 copies here instead of the Lightning Shrieker, but I only have 2 copies in my collection because it's mythic. It's hard to come by. Something to craft a couple more copies, but I'm hoarding off for now. Lightning Shrieker is a new card from Jumpstart, though. 5/5 Flying, Trample, and Haste. So I think it's actually pretty interesting and similar to the Inferno Hellion, where you can just kind of get some immediate value and then it shovels back into your library and you get potentially get additional cast triggers. It's kind of interesting. So I'm actually not too sad about running this card. I think it's actually pretty solid. You get the cast trigger if you have an Unsealing out, which deals 4 damage, and then you can immediately swing into it with a haste body, flying, nice evasive. Even if they have like a small little flyer, like a Healer's Hawk or something like that, you can still trample through for at least 4 damage, things like that. So Lightning Shrieker is actually a pretty interesting card. So I'm happy to run a couple copies here. And of course, Terror of the Peaks with Unsealing out is just insane. So we just have the 2 copies, like I said. But yeah, powerful card. 5/4 flying. Spells your opponents cast a target. It costs an additional 3 life to cast, which certainly fits in nicely with everything else we're trying to do with the Unsealing triggers, the Viashino Pyromancer. We're trying to chip away at damage to our opponent as quickly as possible. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield, deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Well, we have a bunch of cheap 7 and 4 and 5 powered creatures, so we're happy to run Terror of the Peaks and get that amazing values. Even if they got rid of your Unsealing or you haven't found it for some reason, Terror of the Peaks is almost kind of like an Unsealing type effect. This is enter the battlefield. It's not a cast trigger like Unsealing, so you'd have to actually resolve stuff. But obviously, Terror of the Peaks is just a good card. So 25 lands. We want to make sure we curve out all these spells, these 4 and 5 mana spells. So we're running full 25 lands to make sure we kind of can do that consistently. So we've got a couple Castle Locthwains. You're going to come into situations where your opponent just has removal deck, and you need to kind of keep digging for answers. Maybe you have Unsealing that's stuck around on the board, but they've killed all your creatures, and you need to find just that one creature to close out the game. The Castle Locthwain can kind of help you dig for that. 5 swamps, 7 mountains, so we're pretty balanced here with black and red sources. 4 Blood Crypt, 4 summits, and 2 Fabled Passage for a little bit of fixing. We do have obviously double black here for the Grim Tutor and things like that. Might want to stomp something and then play additional red spell, things like that. So making sure we have the appropriate number of red and black sources that we need at any given time is pretty nice. And then additional kind of fixing and also kind of a utility spell here in Field of Ruin, being able to get rid of our opponents' non-basic lands. A Flip Search for Escanta can be pretty devastating. Adonto Vanguard, or not Adonto Vanguard, but Adonto the First Fort is pretty devastating. So lots of good historic non-basics. Obviously, kind of works against the first Field of the Dead, but not too much after that. But you know, we have the Sarkhan Unsealing, which 4 damage is going to wipe your opponent's zombie horde anyway in those situations. But yeah, there's definitely lots of nice reasons to run at least one copy of like some land destruction. Sideboard here, we got a couple Agonizing Remorse, a couple Legions in. There's so many aggro matchups. This is really nice for that interaction. Just exile. You can hit potentially multiple creatures because all those aggro decks seem like they're running like lots of like 4-ofs and things like that. So definitely think this is a pretty key card. And obviously the Field of the Dead matchup as well, hitting their zombie tokens. A couple Kroxas here for those, again, for those kind of mid-rangey and control matchups. 6-power creature for 2 mana, or even escaping it for 4, and you get your Unsealing trigger out as well. It's pretty sweet. A couple Davriels for some additional discard fodder for those control and mid-range matchups. Obviously, Rakdos doesn't really have good ways to deal with enchantments. You need some, feel like we need some way to interact with that. So a couple Pharika's Libations. And then for any life gain decks, which there are obviously an abundance of, especially in Historic, and even the Field of the Dead decks, Rampaging Ferocidon running 3 copies because those decks are very prevalent, and this is going to put a lot of work against those lists. And we have all this damage dealing, but we don't have exile removal, so I wanted to put some kind of exile removal here. So I went with to Extinction, just because, you know, it's a single black, and also being able to look at your top card of your library feels like it's maybe a little bit better than Vassal's Contempt, getting the 2 life. But either one of those, or if you want to slot in something else in this slot, that's perfectly fine as well. But I do feel like I wanted some. All right, against 2 tall. Lurrus. This hand's okay, so we'll try it. Pick at their hand with the Freebooter. So it's a Lurrus deck, so I'm not sure if that's Sacrifice, probably. Or maybe it's the Aura. Alright, cast down's not bad. We'll see what they have here, though. Season of Growth. Might as well drop the Freebooter and kind of peek at any playables they might have. Okay, Gingerbrute and Bronzehide Lion. Huh. So unfortunately, Cast Down does not hit Lurrus, but they go for the Bronzehide, and then they also have 1 mana to Gingerbrute. Oh boy. Well, we're pretty desperate need to find an Unsealing here. Most of our hand is red, so I think we'll just go grab a mountain. And we're not blocking, so we'll swing. Pass turn. I think we'll just... I mean, they're going to get the cast trigger potentially with the Season of Growth. But I think I'd rather let them go to combat first and then kind of make our decision. Leaning towards a Gingerbrute. I'm not sure if that's the right play, but that's what we're going to pick off. Knowing we they probably just drew another God's Willing since we took one. They're trying to decide if it's worth it. I mean, they're looking at it, they're taking their time, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. You can get it back with the Lurrus. It doesn't seem like it's worth running God's Willing there. Alright. I think we have another red source, so we can play you and hold up Stomp on the Lurrus. I'm fine with blocking here. Obviously, the Season Growth represents a ton of card advantage if they can get that going. I keep forgetting. So they put the Lurrus back in their hand, so they can cast it next turn. Actually, we can Stomp and block if they decide to go that, but they do not. So we'll just keep getting it in the air. Oh, that's probably a God's Willing, number 2. So Stomp play might not work. Still think we try it though. So we'll Pyromancer again, put him down to 13. Yep. Fast turn. Certainly case to get this guy down, but we shall see. So let's see if they go for the Gingerbread here. And they found another white source. Okay, Bronze-Eyed Lion, no reason to respond yet. Give them some time, see what they do. Double block. I mean, if they have it, they have it. I'm pretty sure they do. Let's see. Okay, they activate to give Indestructible. That's fine. I'll pick off your Lurus. If they had it, they just lost their ability to do anything about it. Alright. Well, they do have a 4/4, but that's fine. We'll just drop Hellion down. Happy to make this block. And then give Indestructible again, which is fine. They have Alsaid. So give it protection. We're still at 17 though, they're down to 12. I have a couple life linkers out though. We want to make them pay. We'll take 4. It's not going to take much to get this going though. Alright. Play the Hasty Boy. They don't have good blocks here. We have Trample. I mean, with 2 1/1 lifelingers, they're effectively at 14, depending on what they're holding up in hand. So we are swinging for, what, 13 power here? Alright, they go for the chump on the Freebooter. Sure. And they have a pump spell. Or protection. Okay. But they almost die to trample damage. They're at 1. And a lot of life gain here. We have a Stomp, if we can keep them at bay. All the glitters, they can swing for 3. Okay, they're Sentry at 5. But we have another one of these. So I love the trample, the haste on this. So we're going for it. Alright. So yeah, Lightning Shrieker is actually not a bad card. Oof, that was tough. I mean, Legion's End is tempting, but they can give protection. Libation could be interesting. I do want to bring the Ferocidons in. I mean, Freebooter can kind of hit some of their auras, but it still feels pretty medium. So I think at least cutting 2 copies. Bonecrusher's okay. I mean, we do like the Stomp side of this. Man, Tutor is so important to get. If we can get that Unsealing, that pretty much wipes out their whole board. If we can do that efficiently. We'll cut 1 Regisaur, let's bring in 2 Ferocidons. And it's tempting to bring this in, but it might not even be good enough. We can potentially get a Seasoned Growth if they don't have any other R's, but that's probably asking too much. So maybe we just keep going with the Freebooters then, and then we can kind of pick those out of their hand. They don't have good removal, right? I mean, they probably have like some Banishing Lights or Pacifisms or something. But if just more of like a pacifism or similar effect, then that's not really doing too much. Oh man, we have the Unsealing. We can really keep this hand. 3 mountains. I mean, these are all playable if we find any land, and we have a 2-drop. I think the Unsealing's pretty key. I'm gonna keep it because we have not seen it yet, and just trust that the deck will provide. We know we have a 2-drop at least, and this isn't until turn 5 anyway. So within the first few draws here, we should find another land of some kind, and most likely a dual land or black source. At least in theory. Oh, they're running 70 cards. That's cute. No turn 1 play. That's awesome. Just looking for lands here. Alright, so I have 2 more draws to get a land. I don't mind not playing this Regisaur, that's fine. I can swing 1 here, make it unblockable. Don't care too much. I do nothing. There's the Grim Tutor. Alright, not being rewarded. Last, next turn we have to draw a land. Or we're probably just going to fall too far behind to a Season Growth, maybe? Double attack? No? Wow. Alright, well they're not doing anything, so we'll give it one more draw here. We are punished big time. And Unsealing, a Regisaur, and a Grim Tutor were our draws. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, 25 lands. We should be able to hit a land within like 3 draws, right? I mean, even just a red source would have been fine to play the Unsealing, if nothing else. You can make it unblockable. You can give it protection. Sure, I'll make you do something. You're gonna sack it? Really? I think that's worth it. Why not just pay to make it unblockable? Okay, well. It's bad keep, and we got punished big time by the Shuffler. I mean, come on. We should be getting a land there. I swear, some of these matches are just, the Shuffler just decides who's going to win before the game even starts. It's like you just cannot draw what you need to save your life, and it's super frustrating. But you just kind of have to make the best with what you get. Alright, so this is a pretty solid hand. I like all these threats. Alright, I think we'll cast down that. I don't even want them to untap. Give a protection spell, God's Oin, anything like that. So we have the Stomp or Eliminate for Lures potentially, but we'll see what they play here. I just want to keep the threats to an absolute minimum. So they could potentially have a protection spell. So maybe we should wait, but let's force the action here. So they're missing green. So they just get a Lurus. I mean, if they have a land, they can lure us into a Healer Sock. Don't think I care too much about that, so we'll just drop the Hellion, and then we can stomp the Lurus next time. So we found reasonable land drops, but obviously we need one more land to get this Terror. Hopefully they just play Lurus here. Nope, Sentinel's Eyes. Don't really care about that. That's pretty cool. Do we want to keep forcing them to let's get in. Let's not even let them have a chance to build up their life total. protection spell. +2. Sure. We still trample. So I'm totally fine with that. If we get a protection spell out of their hand, it shuffles back. It would have, you know, it being in the graveyard, it being one of these random 49 cards, doesn't really matter too much. Obviously, it's slightly better having it back in the library, so we could potentially redraw it, especially once we hit an Unsealing, which of course we're not doing this time. Final kept the hand last time because we had the Unsealing, but we can't actually do anything with it. Obviously, we're not going to block here because they can do any number of pump spells, but they don't even bother trying. They just want to make it unblockable, and they think they're going to ride this Ginger Brute to victory. I don't know why they didn't play Lurrus there. That's kind of weird. I mean, they have enough mana. I don't think we care too much about making them pay. They don't have flying, so we'll swing in for 5. And then we'll Grim Tutor for an Unsealing, because that's what we're all about. Honestly, it feels a little bit, might be a little bit late, but they're not doing too much crazy here. I mean, we could just go for a hasty threat. That might actually be the better play. If we can... That would actually be lethal next turn, would it not? Because then we'd be swinging for 10 in the air, plus the 5 power. Alright, want to grab an Unsealing, but it's probably a little bit late at this point of the game. So we'll hold up Stomp now on Lurrus. And then next turn we can Shrieker. We'll get a trigger from the Terror, deal 5 damage to their face, and then swing 10 in the air. Yeah, you can hit me for 3, no problem. So they have a Lurrus and something else. I'm guessing it's a protection spell, that's why they don't want to tap out for Lurrus. But since they have mana open, that's probably just all they do. Okay, well... I wonder if they're running Settle the Wreckage, is that possible? Could they be running Settle the Wreckage? We're at 9, so it could be. Maybe we'll just attack with the Shrieker. That is lethal. Let's hold the Terror back, so in case it is like a Seal Away or a Settle, we have protection. Okay, they were just holding up a life gain. Alright, and they should be dead next turn. We have 2 perfectly playable cards that can kill them next turn. Okay, Lurrus, and get back Alseid. That's your play. You're dead, just the Terror, you know that, right? A Ginger Brute? Sure. Yeah, I'll take one. Yeah, and opponent dies. Alright. Alright, I'm going to Demagogue. Gotta go first. And this hand is amazing. I love it. Got the Unsealing, we got a 2-drop, and we got a kill spell. 4 lands, sign me up. That's the Teamer Triumph. Oh, that's awesome. We get to play Teamer Reclamation. That's so cool. Or it could be Elementals, I guess. There's turn 2, we'll play Explore, okay? So Reclamation it is, that's awesome. Best deck in, well, I don't know if it's the best deck in Historic. Certainly up there. Seems like in Standard at least it's one of the best decks. We will give it the old college try. If we can just resolve this, but odds are they have Witness Reclamation right here, because why wouldn't they have Reclamation on turn 4? Torbrand? That's not what I was expecting. Are they just trying to be cute? So there's Legendary, and it's a 4-drop, so we cannot kill it, but Unsealing can. Unsealing with the Hellion down? Absolutely can. They are in green, so they could have some interaction for enchantment, but we'll see. They do nothing. Well, we'll drop the Hellion, clear the board. And if you have a counterspell, you're still taking a lot of damage here. You could have Storm's Wrath or something. Are you just trying to be cute with Torbrand and Expansion Explosion? I don't understand. So you're in Teamer. You did nothing until Torbrand on 4, and you have Lightning Strikes in your deck. And Hydroid Krasis. Sure. That's a lot of lands. I think we'll fire off the cast down. Swing 2. Alright, so this will put them at 6 on their end step. And then we can play this and get another trigger here. If they go for another Krasis. Eesh. We should have done that in response, so now they can kill our Pyromancer. Well, Pyromancer's not doing anything. They do get a card draw. We should have done that on the stack, but that's fine. I think we still want to get this damage done. Or we could have stomped the Niv Mizzet and then played the Bonecrusher on our turn. But we can do both. Yeah, they're just dead here. Okay. So we're good. Hello. Sure. Okay, so your Teamer Torbrand Niv Mizzet. So cast down. I mean, it hit their Krasis. Wow. What do we want? What even is this deck? So Krasis, Torbrand, and Niv Mizzet. So kind of want to keep the cast downs in then to hit their Krasis. Pyromancers felt pretty worthless, honestly. Let's bring in the Remorse because they can hit a lot of things. Kroxa, obviously, making them discard some of their bigger plays. Could throw them off a little bit. Bonecrusher obviously came in clutch there, but overall, I don't know if it's really where we want to be necessarily. Ferocidon's tempting to shut down the life gain from Krasis, but that was kind of their only life gain effect. Just maybe bring in one Davriel and try it like that. Try to hit their hand a little bit while still playing some creatures. Man. If one of these was a land, I would probably keep this as it is. I guess we'll keep these. Put the Hellion back. I mean, we have 4 of them, so we'll probably draw another one. Regisaur. Just looking for more lands here at this point. Explore. Let's go for the Remorse because they have kind of a mix of things. Don't think we care about Lightning Strike, honestly. Just take the Growth Spiral. So they do get to opt here, that's fine. It's nice patience by them not casting it in response because you don't want to give that away. Because you might draw into something better and then we could Agonizing Remorse whatever they got with the opt. Alright, so they can Lightning Strike the Freebooter, or we take the Lightning Strike, although they can just kill it in response to it. Do we care about Lightning Strike? Not really. but we're missing land drops after having a mulligan to 6, so we'll just Kroxa. See what random card they want to discard. We only have a land plus strike. So we'll see what they get rid of. They get rid of the lightning strikes. They have another one. Not doing anything, but we are still missing our land drops in our 25 land deck. Okay, so they have Krasis next turn for 1, 2, 3, 4. Can eliminate it. At least. Oh, they go for the Escape to the Wilds. They could potentially Niv Mizzet next turn. They have 1, 2, 3. Yep, they have 3 total. Finally get a land. Just don't think it's good enough at this point. Kind of want just a Grim Tutor for a land. I mean, this is pretty sad. Do we have an answer for Niv Mizzet? Do we have an answer for Niv Mizzet? Obviously the Regisaur. Let's just go Regisaur. And we can discard the Freebooter. We know what's in their hand. They have all these castables. I mean, they can draw, and maybe that might be a reason to look, but at least the 7/6 can deal with their 5/5. Okay, then kill our Freebooter. They get the mass manipulation. So they can kill our, take our Regisaur next turn. So maybe we keep the Freebooter to try to get the mass manipulation back. We'll just get rid of that. Still can't get a land. So we'll get our mass manipulation back under the Freebooter. They have a lightning strike though, of course. Alright. Take 7. And they can just strike here. 1. Oh, no, they're just going to go for an arrow. Wow, you can kill our Regisaur? Oh, you lightning strike for 3. You get a Niv Mizzet trigger for 1 more. Yep. Got it. They're at 13 now, and we've been stuck on lands for so long. Niv Mizzet. Just a card that can take over games. It's pretty miserable experience being stuck on lands there for so many turns. I mean, they just got to do everything they wanted, and we held on a little bit, but if you don't draw lands, I mean, what are you gonna do? So we're kind of stuck with it last time, didn't do much. So maybe we'll just go to 1 tutor and bring in the second Davriel. Although being on the play now, maybe the tutor is better. But we just need to not draw like crap. That would be pretty nice. I want to fill a passage for a swamp to get these in, but we'd have essentially 2 black sources, so I think we'll just hold the passage and just get these castles down. There's not anything to stomp, so we'll just Kroxa here. There's an Unsealing, which we're going to play on curve. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. So now we'll see if Unsealing can carry us against this teamer Niv Mizzet. Shock. They've had the Explorer all 3 games, and we've seen Unsealing like hardly at all. That's just... I don't understand how that works. I don't understand. I'm not in a rush to play the Giant. I'd rather get the Unsealing down first, so we'll just play this Castle number 2. Then we can Summit untap next turn. They're potentially hold up a counterspell though. Probably not anything else. We're going to get value off of this, so we'll just go ahead and stomp their face and see if that elicits a response. Definitely want to get this Unsealing down if at all possible. Resolves, perfect. So next turn we have Regisaur plus Eliminate, so hopefully they play something for us to kill, otherwise we'll just have to discard it. Escape. Okay, so they got a Krasis and an Uro. Uro is so obnoxious. The fact that it's like a $50 card or whatever, it's just insane. Just insane. Alright, we'll crack this, grab. That doesn't matter too much. I guess we'll grab a mountain. Yeah, play you. Pass a turn. So they're down to 12. We do have an Unsealing in play. And I doubt they have enchantment interaction. Okay, so they get the Uro here. They go up to 15. And anything else upon it? And they're actually super close to escaping it. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 other cards in their bin, so they'll be able to escape it next turn. All I have to do is Growth Spiral and something else. No, they just want to fire off this Crisis. Okay, perfect. We get some value out of these. It doesn't matter. We have to discard one of them. Cast down. Right, so we get to fill up our yard a little bit for this Kroxa, which is nice. And we just need to get these creatures in play and try to close out this game, if they have a Storm's Wrath or whatever. Go and play you. If they do have Storm's Wrath, then we can Kroxa. So we'll see what they do here. They have all the mana in the world. They can escape their Uro. And still have 4 mana open. And they have a grip full of cards in their hand. Which is pretty insane. I mean, Niv is a cool card, so it's nice to see that still getting some play. I'm glad this isn't just a Reclamation deck. But I do hate Uro, it just gives so much value. I mean, they've gained 6 life off this, casting it once and now escaping it. I mean, they'd be at 2 and they'd be dead, if not for Uro. You don't have to play removal, just play Uro, you gain a bunch of life, draw some cards, ramp, and you can find answers. Doesn't even matter. Okay, they take 2. They can block the Regisaur, no problem. Does that give us enough to escape? Yep, I think so. So if they want to block it, then we'll just escape, I think. Cool. Them trading there give us the escape. Then we get Kroxa down. Oh, and yeah, they didn't seem to take that into consideration. They go down to 2, and with 1,000,000 cards to play. Not really sure why they conceded there, honestly. Obviously, they were a long ways from escaping an Uro. But still plenty of good stuff they could have drawn into. Alright. So some interesting matchups there. Did you get a pack? So let's celebrate. And what do we got here? Sanctum of All. Not a big fan of Shrines, honestly. Seems too passive for my tastes. But I get why people like it. Something different, I guess. Alright, I mean, we're playing Unsealing, which is kind of a passive enchantment. We also got to play creatures that do things, which is fun. Alright, so this list, obviously, Unsealing, super fun card. It's obviously has a ton of upside, but obviously it's not very consistent. I mean, there's some matchups where you're just going to be, your deck is going to look like a pile of trash, unplayable trash. But if you can resolve an Unsealing and then have a removal for it, all you have to do is cast creatures and you're getting value, and I just love that about this list. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Lightning Shrieker. First off, it just started because I didn't have enough Terror of the Peaks, but I've actually been really impressed, or at least pleased, I should say. Well, let's not overstate it and say I've been pleased with this card. So I definitely think it's perfectly fine. It's running 2 and 2 of. But obviously, if you want to run all 4 Terror of the Peaks, if you have them in your collection, you know, no one's going to be mad at you for doing that, except your opponent, of course. Definitely have gotten some value off Clackbridge Troll in playtesting, especially against like aggro matchups. That life gain is pretty insane, and then just the 8 power wiping their board with an Unsealing in play. So obviously we didn't really get the aggro matchups, in those. But yeah, obviously you want to tutor up the Unsealing. So one thing that's kind of missing maybe is a little bit of life gain. So you can tutor and not have to worry about your life total as much. So if you want to run like maybe some Erebos' Intervention, that could be fine as well. But I do like this configuration here with the you know, the kind of the value plays of the Freebooter and the Pyromancer here. Kind of coming down, you can kind of look at your opponent's hand. If you whiff or your opponent's not already running too much of importance, then you just have a little blocker here. And the Pyromancer, kind of the same thing, is kind of get the damage going early on. Then you have a 2-power creature behind that can kind of hold down the fort while you're trying to get set up with your Unsealing and everything like that. And then obviously the sideboard, you can kind of make some changes depending on what you're up against. Like I said, I do like the exile removal, but if you are finding this not that relevant, you can definitely swap this out for whatever you think is important. Legion's End I think is pretty crucial, but you can maybe do like a Golden Demise or Cry of the Carnarium, or what's the other one, the Virulent Plague, things like that. Those are all probably reasonable cards to run as well. And I do like kind of splitting up the Remorse with the Davriels as well, just kind of having a little bit of more variety, especially because of your sideboarding. You can probably take out the tutors easily in those control matchups for the Davriels. So they're just kind of like the curve of how that kind of works out, but you might want to sideboard differently. So if you want to take out Davriel, more Agonizing Remorse, something like that. But yeah, there's always room to play around with the sideboard. But yeah, Unsealing, super fun card. One of my favorites, if not my favorite card on all of Arena. And yeah, this deck feels pretty strong. I'm certainly comfortable running it in ranked. Obviously, we're just in gold here, which is kind of like the new silver. But you know, obviously, we still see some pretty competitive lists, and you know, I think it holds its own. Just the consistency is probably the one thing that's really holding it back. Yeah, super fun list. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you guys are running Unsealing, let me know what you guys are doing with your Unsealing lists. All right, so thanks for watching, and until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.